This main road behind me is called Merry Street, and at some point in 1886 there once stood a pub on that very street behind me. A very appropriate name, as the people of Merry Street got merry as representatives of two football clubs called Glencairn FC and Alpha FC met up in the pub. They were the two main works teams of Motherwell at the time and decided to join forces. The aim was to merge the two clubs together to give the town of Motherwell a chance at having a football team that played at a bit of a higher level than the one that the two works teams were currently playing for. And so Motherwell FC was formed. Their early years proved quite tricky, as a lot of the worker players struggled to finish their shifts on time and get to matches. It wasn't until 1893, 7 years after their merger and the kind of formation of the club, that they finally went professional. And then they joined, of course, the SFL, the Scottish Football League. They played their first decade or so in the second tier and were the pride of Lanarkshire, as they were the only team from this county to compete at a national level. Motherwell played at a few sites in their early history before they were granted a lease on a plot of land. On that plot of land stands Fir Park, which has been Motherwell's home for 125 years. And here I am now, as you can see, outside the home of Fir Park, the home of Motherwell, which has been their home for over 120 years now. And yeah, as ever with these vlogs, I'm going to try and fit the entire history, or all of the kind of bits that I could pick up from online that were important about Motherwell FC. So yeah, if I do miss anything, your favourite moment or anything like that, then just drop it down in the comments below. I'm sorry if I miss it. And yeah, please do like this video as well, because I'm out in the kind of sleety snow today. And yes, I would really appreciate all the support. So yeah, thank you very much. Please like this video, subscribe if you aren't already as well. That'd be hugely appreciated. Now let me find somewhere to put you down and I'll tell you some facts about Motherwell's early history. Right, while I'm looking for somewhere where I can just stick the GoPro down, there's not many places around here that will get a good little view of the stadium behind me. As you can see, the weather's pretty grim today, but yeah, a few quick facts on Fir Park itself. So it was the temporary home of Gretna FC in the 2007-2008 season, when they themselves were in the Scottish Premiership, as their ground was deemed too small by the SPL. Gretna even played a UEFA Cup tie here, and the capacity of this stadium is around 13,000. I think Gretna's was about 6,000, which is why they themselves couldn't play here for UEFA Cup and SPL matches. Yeah, it was opened in the late 1800s and is still in use from Motherwell today. So in 1913, the club decided to change from its original blue colour to the amber and claret that you see today, which was inspired by Bradford. So yeah, quite a unique colour in world football. Not many teams have it, but apparently yes, from what I could find out online, there are rumours that it was inspired by Bradford City down in England. In the post-World War I era, Motherwell had a very successful period. During this time, they were managed by their longest serving manager ever, even to this date, John Hunter. He was the manager here for 35 years and he lived till he was 87, so he was manager of Motherwell for over 40% of his life. You just don't see longevity and loyalty like that in football these days. Look at the snow coming down. Oh god, this is grim. In the summer of 1927, Motherwell took part in a Spanish tour, and they even beat Real Madrid 3-1 and drew 2-2 with Barcelona. That tour went down so well, they even did a tour of South America, where they played against the Argentinian National Team at Boca Juniors' stadium. How many teams can say they've done that? Yeah, please subscribe. What other football channel gives you amazing facts like Motherwell playing against Argentina at the Boca Juniors Stadium? Come on. The 1930s were a huge success for this club, and they won their first league title in this decade. They won 30 out of the 38 games in the 1931-32 season, yeah, giving them their first ever top-tier title. Their striker Willie McFadden of that season holds a record for the most amount of goals scored by one single player in a top-flight season, I think with 52. This was also the first and only title in a 43-year period that didn't go to Celtic or Rangers. They even finished runners-up the next couple of years and even got to the Scottish Cup final 3 times in the 1930s, but they lost every single one, twice to Celtic and once to Clyde. The Well won the 1950 League Cup final, beating Hibs, who had won the league by 10 points that season and were favourites to win the final as well. Motherwell, however, had won 3-0 and defeated Hibs, and their famous front line, including the famous 5. I recently covered Hibs, so yeah, do check that video out. I love researching these other teams and see how they all intertwine. I was at Hibs the other day learning about the famous 5, and now Motherwell bring them back into the story of Scottish football again. Finally though, yeah, in 1952, they won their first ever Scottish Cup, beating Dundee 4-0 at Hampden in front of 136,000 people. In the 50s, future Liverpool legend Ian St John played here for the club. And yeah, during that time of the 50s when Ian St John was coming through, that was when European football was beginning to start and kind of, yeah, get popular all across the continent. And yeah, Motherwell wouldn't qualify for Europe until the 1990s. In 1991, Motherwell won the Scottish Cup again for the second time and for the first time since the 1950s. And there is the Davie Cooper stand up there and the Cooper bar there. Davie Cooper, a legend of Rangers and Clydebank and Motherwell, was a huge part of that cup winning team. He is one of the biggest legends to have ever graced this club. And yeah, look there, Fir Park Street. Right next to Fir Park Street is the Davie Cooper stand, which I will include a picture of just now. And yeah, he was part of such a legendary moment in the club's history, but he sadly died in in the 1990s when he was still playing for Clydebank, and he was about to retire and become their manager, I believe. But yes, more on him a little bit later. Yeah, the Scottish Cup win in the 90s was huge for them and was their first major trophy since the 1950s. They'd won a couple of second-tier titles in between their first Scottish Cup win and their second, but yeah, this was really their first major trophy anyway since then. And they beat Jim McLean's legendary Dundee United side 4-3 after extra time in what seems like a thrilling final at Hampden. In 1995, they finished runners-up, giving them their highest ever finish since the 1930s. They played in Europe a few times in the 90s, and yeah, even got knocked out of the UEFA Cup by Dortmund at one stage. But yeah, it was a few losses against a few smaller teams that you probably wouldn't recognise from countries like Poland and stuff, that kind of marred their European experience, I guess you could say, during the 90s. My hands are so cold. Please do like this video, yeah. And look, behind me there is the Davie Cooper stand. In 2002, Motherwell faced liquidation and were forced to release pretty much all of their senior squad. The club basically had to play with a load of youngsters, but through that crisis, there emerged some great talent, such as James McFadden, who they went to sell on for a handsome transfer fee, and thus be able to kind of drag themselves out of what was an awful situation in terms of finances for them. The club even managed to reach the League Cup final in the mid-2000s, although they lost to Rangers in the final. For most of the 2010s, Motherwell did actually qualify for Europe, although they never got to the group stages, but they did play qualifying rounds against teams like Krasnodar, Steaua Bucharest and Levante. They even qualified for the Champions League one year, but they lost in their qualifying round and had to drop to the Europa League qualifying round, which they lost again. They've never been to a group stage, I don't think. But yeah, they qualified for the Champions League because I think Rangers were ahead of them in the league, but that was the year that they had their financial troubles and liquidation and all that kind of stuff. So I believe that, yes, it was around that time that Motherwell were then there to step into their place. But I think, who was it against? They lost against Panathinaikos. So yeah, Greek giants knocked them out of the Champions League. But yeah, they've had a good few European adventures here, Motherwell, although they've never qualified for the group stages, unfortunately. But yeah, look, here we are now at the home of Motherwell, Fir Park, and there is the Davie Cooper stand. And yes, there is no better place to go after this than where I'm about to just take you now. It wouldn't be a Motherwell vlog without going to see the man I'm about to take you to, but it also wouldn't be a Motherwell vlog on YouTube without mentioning another Motherwell YouTube sensation, wee Gogsy crying at Rangers. Every time I think of Motherwell, I think of that image of him crying at Ibrox. There he is. Gogsy, shout out to you, mate. But yes, here is a Motherwell legend, Davie Cooper, the man who I told you, remember, has a stand named after him at Motherwell. And yeah, look, here you can see reefs and stuff, stones all laid in his honour, as yeah, he died in 1995, sadly. I think he was on a photo shoot at Clydebank Stadium with other footballers at the time, and this hasn't been brilliantly kept, but you can see here that he was at Motherwell from 1989 to 1993, at Rangers before that for a good few years, and Clydebank before that as well. He came through at Clydebank, legend at Rangers, then won the cup here for Motherwell. And yeah, like, as you remember, Motherwell have only won the cup twice, and Davie Cooper was a huge part of why they won it the second time, and he was one of the best ever players to have played for the club. So yeah, Motherwell, a massive club here in Scotland who have won the league title. Not many clubs can say they've done that. They've won a couple of cups, and they've played in Europe, and they've been quite consistently up the top of Scottish football. I'm going to leave you here with Davie Cooper, and yeah, I'll leave some videos around his head as ever, so you can keep watching my videos. But yes, from Davie Cooper, a legend here at Motherwell. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.